And hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jake Hicks Show and our candidate profile series. And today I have on Mr. Clyde Jones, candidate for United States House of Representative District 1 in the state of Alabama. Hello, Clyde.
Hey, good afternoon, Jake. Thank you for having me on today. Appreciate
Yes,
being here.
yes, sir. So, Clyde, if you don't mind telling us a little about your background and why you are running for Congress.
Sure. A little about my background. I actually joined the Army at 17 years old, had a 21-year Army career. Retired as a first sergeant back 20 years ago now in 2005. A couple combat tours in that time. Lost some good friends over in Desert Storm. Um, just great time serving the country. It was good times, it was bad times, but then I don't regret any bit of it. I retired in 2005. Went to work for a chemical company, DuPont, at the time, um, which later became FMC here in Mobile, and that's how I ended up in the Mobile area, which I live in Daphne, but. Uh, so I ended up there, and I retired from there last year. I've been a public servant pretty much my entire life, right? Even, of course, again serving in the military. I uh, I had a revelation over in Desert Storm. I was in a foxhole, and I was, I guess, about 22, 23 years old, and I thought about I've never voted before, right? I've never even registered to vote, and I was like, I'm over here risking my life, and I've never so. That was to me was a self-start as far as my civic duty, as far as, making sure I was always registered, always voting. And again, of course, serving in the military, you can't hold any type of public office or anything, but I always wanted to do more when it came to serving the public and serving in public office, possibly. And when I retired from the Army, I just became more active in different organizations, uh, whether it be, raising money for breast cancer awareness or whatever it was. I was always involved. I just finished being the president of the board of directors for Alabama Rise. I don't know if you or your listeners know about Alabama Rise, but I was the board president for the last 2 years. Did a lot of important work when it comes to helping alleviate poverty in the state of Alabama. So that was important work for me. And if it wasn't for the fact that I really wanted to get in and do more by running for office, I probably would still be the president of the board of directors of Alabama Rise. But I went ahead and stepped down so I could take on this role as a candidate. I think it's time for us for a change here in the first district of Alabama, congressional district. I think I can be that change. I want to be that change. So I do think it's time for us to start caring more about people than party or special interests, and that's why I'm here. That's why I want to be here.
The first congressional district is a very large congressional district. It is a
Mhm.
very diverse congressional district in terms of interest in the district.
Mhm.
The
Mhm.
interest on the east side of the district, as opposed to the west and southern portion, are very different
Right.
of the district. What does a winning coalition to you look like in the first district?
Well, a winning coalition to me looks like um, really just again people uh, who care about each other and care about their neighbors, right? Um, so whether it be here in the area that I live in Daphne, and the Gulf Shores, the tourism heavy area over in Mobile, or whether it be over in Wiregrass, some of the rural areas in between, we all have a common interest, and that common interest is to make a better life for us and our families, right? So I think the common ground and the winning formula for District One is to find um, the issues that were related to that particular area and emphasize those things. And I grew up in a rural area, so I know about the farming and I know about those things. Um, so I feel like I have a very wide wide experience as far as dealing with whether it's being the city, tourism, whether it be over in the rural areas, over we have military base, Fort Rucker and all that over in the eastern part of the district. So all of those things are extremely important to me, and it should be important to the citizens who live in those areas. So I think we can come together on those things.
That's always important. And you talked about that one area has a very heavy tourism industry, and then you've
Mm,
got the rural areas where agriculture is
mhm,
predominant. And um, your emphasis on poverty in your background, working to alleviate that,
mm.
I'm sure that that is a huge issue in your more rural parts of your district.
Right, right.
Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're in day 30 of this government shutdown, and right. So I don't think people fully understand the impact it's going to have, particularly in the rural areas where you might have one or two grocery stores within a 20-mile radius, and a lot of that the customer base uses SNAP benefits for that grocery store. So if you have the majority of your customers, their SNAP benefits have been cut, that could be a store that has to close. So you're talking about someone who has to get in a car and drive an hour to get to to a grocery store. So those things should be important to everybody, right? Everybody in that district, really.
most grocery stores, about 20 to 25% of their sales comes from SNAP
Mm,
benefits. If you take
absolutely.
away a quarter of a store's operating, I mean, it's going to hurt that store tremendously. It's also going to cause prices to rise for people who aren't on SNAP to
That's
make
right.
up that difference.
That's right.
I have been really surprised in this shutdown that your large grocers like Walmart,
Mm,
Kroger have not spoken out more forcefully about these SNAP cuts and
mm,
tried to urge Congress to find an off ramp
mm.
for the SNAP cuts. Um, what do you believe is the biggest issue facing your district currently?
Well, really, right now, today is what we just talked about to me. I mean, as far as Medicaid cuts, SNAP cuts, all that, I mean, again, certain parts of our district are more affluent than others or might have more money. But still, for the majority of the district, those things are super important for quality of life, right? And just to be able to survive, right? Medical coverage. Many rural hospitals are closing. Many places don't have ambulance service. So all of those things, as a whole, is very important to for the first congressional district. Again, the eastern part of it might be military contracts. It might be something to do with Fort Rucker or some of the defense spending. But as a whole, I think what affects the majority of the district will be uh, those benefits that are being eliminated, right? So
Are voters telling you those they have the same concerns, or are they raising other issues that you may not have thought about?
as of right now, the only concerns that I've been talked to about are those things. I guess because we're and I'm just now starting my campaign, and we're dead in the middle of this shutdown. So that's mainly what I'm hearing about now. As I start to travel more um, throughout the district, um, I'll probably hear more about other issues that come around. Even our event in Covington, Covington County Tuesday night, we had representatives from 5 counties in there. So, I mean, although it wasn't a huge crowd, it was a great, very diverse crowd, and a crowd again representing 5 counties in our district. So, but those were the issues. Some education was another issue. Schools, quality teachers, being able to retain quality teachers, or teacher pay that came up the other night. So that's another important aspect for our constituents here in the first district.
This question's a little bit not pertaining to you because you'll be dealing with the federal level and
Hmm.
not the state level, but the state is in the next year or two about to have to let go of approximately 500 or so teachers because of the students Alabama has lost.
Hmm.
Some of them to the STEP Act and others they just cannot account for. I believe the state superintendent said other day it was like 3,000 students are no
Hmm.
longer enrolled in Alabama schools. And you also talked about Medicaid cuts. One of the things that I'm really fearful of as your rural hospitals close, that's
Hmm.
going to put more of a strain on your larger hospitals that remain open. And the downriver effect is going to be it's going to reduce the quality of care at
Hmm.
those larger hospitals, and it's just going to have a ripple effect.
Hmm. And we're already seeing some of that, right? We're already seeing some of that even here locally. I went to, of course, I said I'm retired Army, so I used the VA, right? So the VA sent me to a civilian orthopedic doctor um, in Mobile. I went there one time, had an MRI, and before they could call me back to read the MRI, it shut down completely. So the whole building shut down. They did not have enough doctors to keep that building open. Uh, so again, I pretty much had to start over with someone else. But I'm fortunate enough to be in a place where I had other options. And you imagine that happening to someone in a rural area that doesn't have a whole lot of other options. Again, it raises costs for people that do have insurance, right? Do have insurance, and hospitals most hospitals operate in the red as it is, right? They operate in the red. When you talk about cutting the Medicaid that they funds that they receive, we're in some dangerous times, and it's time to really try to put a stop to those things. It's time to uh, uh, really look out for the people, right? Look out for their health care, for their food, make sure they don't have food insecurities. I mean, those are really, really important things. And back to the schools, when we came out with this Choice Act here in uh, in the state of Alabama, um, we knew we were going to lose a lot of population in public schools. But public schools are key, man. Public schools are important, right? They are important to us. Um, we need to make sure that we retain quality teachers. My youngest son, he's a school special education teacher, but he's in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm trying to get him to come down here, but his wife, she doesn't want to move. That's home for her, right? So, but um, we need to recruit and retain the best teachers. Part of what I do here in Daphne is I work with a team of people that recruit teachers for the Baldwin County public school system. So we reach out to colleges, we reach out to, and we actively recruit. We don't work for the school district, but we saw that there was a need to recruit more quality teachers for this area. So we decided to organize and start doing that ourselves. So it's extremely important.
Your congressional district has the reputation of being a very Republican district.
Yes.
It
Hmm.
is a currently it's an open seat. The
Hmm.
incumbent is running for United States Senate. The previous office holder is one of the Republican candidates.
Hmm.
A Republican member of a legislature who's backed by very powerful Republicans is
Right.
another candidate. How do you overcome the perception that this race is not a winnable race?
Well, first of all, I'm gonna let them ballot it out on the other side, right? They as many of them can join the race if they want to. We'll let them battle it out on the other side. Now, I may have a primary opponent as well. I heard some rumors today that I may be getting one soon, which is fine. I invite that. I look forward to it because it brings more attention to the race. I think, right? Because just as you said. Um, People don't pay attention to the Democratic side of of the ticket when it comes to I mean majority of people in first district. Uh, but when I ran for school board years ago, I had a lot of support on both sides of the aisle. Matter of fact, my percentage of votes was probably it wasn't even, but there were a lot of people that crossed the aisle to vote for me. And I do believe that I will have the same support in this congressional race in the first district. I really firmly, truly believe that. And the way I want to do that is I am a personable person, right? I'm gonna get out there and talk to them. I don't turn anybody away because of how they voted before, and I want to hear what they have to say. I want to understand what makes a person vote against their own interests. Talk to me about it. That's what I want. I want to be able to understand what makes you think that uh, this person is taking care of your best interest when everything that they've shown you shows that they're not. So I'm looking forward to getting out throughout the first congressional district and try to change some minds. If I don't change their mind, I'll at least make them think about uh, what's important. All right. So.
That is so true. I often, I see people vote against their economic best interests
Mhm.
or their hell, sometimes even their own personal security.
Right. Right.
And it just blows my mind. And one thing I think, and especially in the South, that I think the Republicans have done that is so insidious is they have captured the cultural issues and
Mhm.
they bang that drum so hard. And I would just like to set people down and say, okay, let's talk about decency and respect.
Right. Right.
And that is all, we're advocating for when we say treat LGBTQ people with respect, or, the
Right.
mother to make healthcare decisions for herself. And Republicans have used the cultural issues to the hilt. And another thing that's really bad in Alabama is after the primary, you don't
Mhm.
hear nothing from the Republican side. They don't campaign at all after the
Right.
primary.
Right. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And that I think is a damaging uh, thing. Um,
Well, I tell you what, Jake, if they do that this time and I'm their opponent, I think they're gonna be making a mistake. I really do. I mean, if they try it again this time. But and then the other thing about me, I don't know if you know this, but I'm associate minister here at church in Daphne. So uh, that's one another reason why I care about the health and welfare of the people, because I care about the health and welfare of my people here at this church, but I have the same uh, desire to ensure that the people in the first congressional district are taken care of, right? So many times that um, especially in Alabama, we'll throw religion into politics, right? Um, but I'm not putting that for out front. But if someone comes to me about religion, I said, okay, let's sit down and talk about that because I am a Baptist minister, right? So yeah, we can talk about that. So and I think that's important too for people to understand when they're talking to me.
yes, I understand. I'm not very religious myself,
Right.
but I do understand in the South, and I don't think people from outside the South understand how much of a
Mhm.
role religion plays in politics in the South.
Right.
It's very heavily influenced by that. So one of the questions I have is, what committees would you like to serve on in Congress?
Well, I think transportation, probably the the means committee, um, and also just I mean, even the agriculture committee, because of the district, uh, I think I would get more insight into how to help the district if I was on the agriculture committee. So those are some of the things, but of course, I always like the armed services committee because that's near and dear to my heart. Again, I spent 21 years in the military, and I have my oldest son. Our oldest son is in the military now. He's serving now. So that is certainly near and dear to my heart as well.
Um, what would be your day one agenda if elected to Congress?
Game one agenda would be, and I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but to restore confidence in the federal government, to restore confidence that there are checks and balances, that we have a legislature that you can depend on to be at work, to be doing the job, doing the work for our constituents, and not just tiptoeing around and not um, letting people do whatever they want to do, right? So how do I do that? That's a good question, but that is what I want. Day one, being transparent, doing my job as a legislature, and not uh, just capitulating and let people do whatever they want to do.
There's a big debate among Democratic politicians about whether it's a good idea to reach out to Republican voters or to reach out to non-voters.
Mhm.
What is your strategy?
Well, my strategy is to reach out to everyone, right? And I think it's so important, and I talk to the League of Women Voters all the time because they did a lot of work with Alabama Rise. We did joint ventures. So, they're nonpartisan, but what they focus on is making sure people are registered to vote and making sure people get to the polls. So when you talk about the non-voters, that's that's really important, right? And to understand, to try to get an understanding of why they're not voting, right? I was talking to a group in Mobile last week, and one of the attendees said, Clyde, have you ever asked someone why don't you vote? And I have, but the other thing she said, did you ask them what would make you want to go vote? Right. So so there are a lot of people that don't vote. And when I ran for office before, I would go into a home here in Alabama, and they I started talking about myself and about my campaign, and several people in the house would say, "Well, we don't vote." I was like, "You don't vote? No, we don't vote." So there is a lot of apathy when it comes to voting in Alabama because they think their vote doesn't count. So getting those people registered, getting those people to the polls, even if they are registered, doesn't mean they're gonna they're gonna go to the polls. And then also there are people in the Republican Party who uh, don't like the way things are going, right? They don't like the way that the government where we're handling things. They don't like uh, the ICE, and immigration. They don't. There are a lot of things they're not comfortable with. Those people might not come out and say that. They might not be out there holding up Clyde Jones signs. But as long as they do the right thing when they're in the polls, that's okay. Make a change, get people in there who really want to get this government back on track. So that's what's important to me.
We are, talking openly about our political beliefs and
Mhm.
our stances. But there are
Right.
a lot of people in the South who are afraid to voice their public opinions on issues because they're afraid of the social ostracization,
Mhm.
afraid of losing contact. And I think that's one thing that I'd really like to see change in the South is people are able to express a differing political belief
Right.
and be safe doing so.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and also, one of the things that I have looked at is in a lot of Alabama counties, the
Mm-hmm.
presidential vote and the congressional vote in the midterm, the percentages are almost the same. The
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, the drop off on the Republican side is so huge
Mm-hmm.
that if
Yeah.
we could get Democrats to vote like they do in presidential election years,
Mm-hmm.
We could win some of these races. We could make some of these races a lot more competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And, in a statewide race, that would help tremendously
Absolutely. Yeah.
because we could use the support that the Democratic Party has in the Black Belt, which would, traditionally yields Democrats a
Mm-hmm.
huge portion of our votes in
Mm-hmm.
Jefferson County, and use that with all the little rural counties. We could overcome some of those Republican tsunamis in some counties.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, one of the sorry, my voice is cracking up.
Oh, you're fine.
Um, the way I found you was on social media on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok. Have
Mm-hmm.
you found that social media has been an asset to your campaign in a way you might not thought of?
Oh, it has definitely been an asset. As a matter of fact, I had a TikTok account before I launched my campaign, but I never used it, right? I would go on and look at something. And so I had a political advisor after I had launched my campaign, like the day after, or maybe 2 days after. She calls me and says, Clyde, why don't you change your account to your TikTok account to your political account? I was like, or your campaign account. I was like, that's true. I can, and it has been getting a lot of traction, right? So I think it's important. Matter of fact, I had a call earlier today with one of the influencers that are from here in this local area that's on TikTok. But um, we talked about how TikTok, or this free advertising really on social media is beneficial, especially for a campaign like mine. My campaign is going to be, somebody sending me $20 here, $20. It's not going to be a big money campaign. Groups outside of this area are not going to dump a lot of money in the first congressional district for a Democratic candidate, right? Because of what you said earlier. It's heavily conservative. People don't look at it, but again. Uh, if people start taking my candidacy for granted, I think they're gonna it's not gonna be good for them. But we I have found that the social media aspect has been excellent. I just need to be more active. I need to be more active on TikTok. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna meet with him, the influencer, Saturday morning, and we're gonna. He's the one that gave me classes on it already. So we're gonna meet and give some more training on. But I do have Facebook page, Clyde for Congress, as well as Instagram page, Clyde for Congress. Um, and as they grow, and a website, as they grow, um, I think my people will know me even more. Now I'm very well known in Baldwin County and in Mobile, um, because of the work I've done for the community and my church and Alabama Rise. I just need to really make sure I get out and talk to the folks in Enterprise and Dothan, get out in that part of the district. And I'm excited about getting out there and meeting people. Again, Covington County the other night, 5 counties represented. So that was excellent. That was excellent.
Um, that is so true. Talking about, free advertising
Mm-hmm.
and being able to reach a wide number of people you
Mm-hmm.
normally wouldn't be able to reach.
Right.
Your account was bound to find me. I live in
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, and
Right.
my account serves up plenty of progressive leaning accounts
Yeah.
for me to engage with. So it was bound to find me at some
Uh-huh.
point. Um,
Uh,
one question I really want to ask you is, what has been the most disheartening thing about the past 9 months to you? For me, it has been the breakdown of institutions and the
mm.
breakdown of controls. What has it been for you watching this administration?
Oh, exactly the same thing. That's why I talked earlier about reestablishing checks and balances, reestablishing what this government is supposed to be, how it's supposed to be operating, because of, like you said, the breakdown of institutions and the the appointment of people that aren't qualified to run departments, right? And we're seeing, I mean, we're gonna pay the price for that for a while, right? We're gonna pay the price, whether it be healthcare, whether it be the military. When you have people in place that are not qualified to actually do that job, um, we're gonna be paying for that. So that's really been the most disheartening part of it, seeing how we've uh, uh, destroyed these government, institutions, how we've tried to influence colleges, what they teach, who they teach, how we've tried to, as far as administration goes, try to influence all these different things, who you hire, who you don't hire. All those things have been very disheartening to me. I don't know if I could even pick the most disheartening hardening thing in that time period, because it seems like it's been a whole lot longer than 9 months to me personally. I mean, it just seems like it has, but it hasn't, of course, well, but it seems that way. We've been going through a lot.
Yes, I said at the beginning of the Trump administration, I, s- I said we would be in a real constitutional crisis the moment he violated a court order or a
Mm,
law.
mm,
And within hours of taking office, of course he did. He
mm,
violated a law passed by Congress with an overwhelming bipartisan majority
right.
and then upheld by a 9-0 vote of the Supreme Court just days before he took office.
Hmm.
And he flat out violated that law, which was the TikTok ban. Now, I
Right,
disagree with
right,
that
right.
law,
Yeah.
but it was passed and he was took an oath to execute the laws of the country.
Hmm.
Um, where can voters find out more about your campaign and maybe donate?
Yeah. Again, well, the Facebook page, Clyde for Congress, as well as Instagram, Clyde for Congress. The Act Blue link is in the bio for both of those, as well as the ClydeForCongress.com website. So I'm easy to find. Easy to find. We have an event coming up in Gulf Shores on November the 4th. So again, we're going to be of course, we're coming up on the holidays, so we might not be, doing much until after January. But we're going to be fundraising. We're going to be reaching out. I have a huge family. I always joke about my family, right? I have family everywhere. Um, and I always joke that if my all my family members gave $5, my campaign would be completely financed. So, so that's not going to happen. Uh, but they can find me in all those places again: Facebook, Instagram, and please join my follow me on TikTok. I am doing videos. I'm not doing them every day. I had started doing some almost every day, but I've been missing some days here lately. But sometimes I don't know if you have this problem, Nick, but sometimes you sit there and just can't find the words. I sit there the other day and I was thinking about, again, I was thinking about the shutdown. I think about all these federal workers that are furloughed. My brother-in-law is furloughed. All the people I know, that are furloughed, and I just couldn't even find the words to. I finally late on that day. I think I made one. So, but please follow me again on TikTok and all those social media platforms. And when I'm in your area, please come out and see me. Again, I'll be spending a lot of time over in Dothan, Enterprise, all the other cities throughout this 9 county district, right? We have eight whole counties and part of Mobile, so it's a widespread county. I mean, district, and we're going to be all over it. All over
Well, I thank Clyde for coming on today. And I think that in November of 2026, Alabama is going to shock the nation. You've got Jeremy, you've got Shane, and Candace running up in the
it.
fifth. and
Yeah.
one of them is going to, shock the world and defeat Dale Strong. Then you got
Hmm.
Amanda and Shane running in the fourth, which is the most Republican congressional district in the country, and
Right.
they're going to be on the front page of the New York Times because they take down Robert Adderholt after serving 30 years in Congress.
Right.
And
Right.
over in the third, Lee McGinnis
Leave
is going to
again.
take down
Yep.
the head of the Armed Services Committee.
That's
And
right.
we're going to return Shamari, and we're going to return Terry in the second and the seventh. And down in the first district of Alabama,
Yes,
Clyde
sir.
Jones is going to be going to Washington, D.C. as the
That's right.
next representative from the first congressional district. And we're going to send a Democrat to the United States Senate,
That's right.
and
That's
we're
right.
going to elect a Democrat governor, and we're
Yes.
going to send Tommy Tuberville back to Florida so he can retire in happiness where he already lives.
That's right. That's right. I'm with you, Jake. I appreciate you. Appreciate you having me with you this evening.
Yes, sir.